When you look at the history of crypto, I think it started as a historically speculative thing. Even in the last kind of 5 years of smart contracts and building on chain, that was predominantly financial. But I think in this current wave that's happening right now, we're starting to see people build social. We're starting to see people build real games. We're starting to see people do things with food and music and art and media on chain. And I think that energy, that's the energy that's going to actually be able to bring millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions and billions of people on chain.
It's Tuesday, July 16th, and this is Markets Daily, a show where we get into the minds of some of the most experienced and smartest investors, CEOs, analysts, researchers, and anyone with a hot or smart take on the markets. Joining today's show is the creator of Base, Coinbase's Layer 2 blockchain, Jesse Pollak. Jesse, welcome back.
Thanks for having me on, Jen. Super excited to be here.
All right, first of all, congratulations on that honeymoon. I know you were offline for a little bit. That sounds lovely.
Thank you. It was great. You know, it's hard to get away from all of the incredible excitement on chain right now, but we had to do it, and it was awesome.
Yeah, you got to go off chain when you're having your honeymoon. Come on. All right, we have some news to unpack today that's really exciting, but it's not every day we have you on the show. So I just want to get a quick update. There's so many things going on in the Base ecosystem. Tell me about some of the things that you're most excited about as we head into the latter part of the year.
Yeah, so we are in on-chain summer right now, which is an incredible moment where really the whole world is starting to move on-chain. And I think the thing that I'm most excited about is the amount of builder energy happening on-chain right now. For instance, we just held a month-long build-a-thon in the month of June. We had 7,000 builders from around the world build 1,200 different apps. It was the largest hackathon on-chain ever in the history of on-chain. And I think that sort of energy, it wasn't here a year ago. It wasn't even here 6 months ago, but now the technology is finally ready. It's cheap, it's fast, it's easy to build, and we're seeing all sorts of new consumer products being built on chain.
Okay, you said 1,200 apps, and the people who listen to the show are listening for alpha. They're listening to inform themselves on what's going on in the space so that they can make the right bets as they're trying to build out their portfolios. Is there a theme that you're seeing or a predominant narrative when it comes to what builders are focusing on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for the first time, we are seeing consumer products be built. You know, when you look at the history of crypto, I think it started as a historically speculative thing. Even in the last kind of 5 years of smart contracts and building on chain, that was predominantly financial. But I think in this current wave that's happening right now, we're starting to see people build social. We're starting to see people build real games. We're starting to see people do things with food and music and art and media on chain. And I think that energy, that's the energy that's going to actually be able to bring millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions and billions of people on chain. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people like to speculate and a lot of people like to trade. But even more people love to connect with their friends, their family, and other people all around the world to do engaging things online and now on chain.
It's like real things are finally being built. Real things are finally making their way to this world that we've been operating in for so long. As someone who's been building yourself, you've been building for a really long time, to finally see these real things, these real use cases that expand on things that already exist. What does that feel like for you to be witnessing and enabling?
Oh my God. It's so fun. I mean, I've been doing this for 12 years now. And so I thought it was going to happen a lot faster than 12 years, but it's so
12
exciting.
12 years is fast.
I know, right? When you compare it to the internet, when you compare it to these major technology shifts, it is fast. And I think this is something that a lot of people probably underestimate. I think folks are still underestimating how fast this is going to happen now that the technology is actually here. And in particular, because there are already phones all around the world, everyone has a phone. All we need to do is upgrade the software. We don't have to go through the whole hardware deployment lifecycle like with the internet. We just have to upgrade the software. And that means that this cycle where people actually start to adopt real utility on chain, I think is going to happen a lot faster than people anticipate. And maybe just to give you a few examples, right now we are seeing social products be built on chain with things like Farcaster. We're seeing food move on chain with small businesses having higher margins and customers having better restaurant experiences with things like Blackbird. We are seeing creators come on chain. Yesterday, earlier last week, we saw Daniel Arsham, a really famous artist, do a collaboration with the United States basketball team and drop it on chain with Coinbase. I think that sort of creativity that spans music, food, social is really incredible. And it's really the first time we're ever seeing it.
Give me an example of food being on chain. I'm unfamiliar with the project you mentioned.
Yeah, so Blackbird is a product. It's founded by Ben Leventhal, who's the creator of Eater and Resi, probably two of the most successful restaurant businesses out of the United States over the last decade or a couple decades. And what it lets you do is it lets you go into any of the restaurants that support Blackbird. You tap to check in, and you're going to get an upgraded experience. So maybe they'll bring you a free side of fries or a free drink or a free dessert. And they're going to get to know you a little bit more so that as you come back, you can have a better and better experience. And then on the flip side, for restaurants, they're going to enable you to pay with stablecoins, with USDC. So you can actually have a fast payment experience, and then restaurants can save the 2.5 to 3% that they're currently paying right now to credit card processors. And when you look at a restaurant today, about 50% of their overall profit is going to credit card processing fees. They make somewhere between 5 to 6% of gross margin, and then 3% is going to credit card fees. And so technology like this is upgrading the system, and it's putting more money back into the hands of small businesses like restaurants while giving a better experience to consumers. That's Blackbird. It's an incredible new product built on Base.
Now, the news we're going to talk about has to do with stablecoins, but I have to ask you, based on what you just said to me, do you think stablecoins and credit cards are going to coexist in the future that you imagine, or because of the fees, because of some of the more, I guess, traditional mechanisms that credit cards use, will they maybe phase out in a way?
I think they're going to coexist for a long time, but I think when you look at stablecoins, really what they're doing is they're upgrading the system, and they're making it faster, easier, and cheaper for both consumers and businesses to do payments. And so on the long run, that's a really compelling value prop. And I think we're going to see a lot of change where businesses opt into this transition because it just works better for them, and consumers do the same. And I think when we think about Base's mission, we are building a global on-chain economy that increases innovation, creativity, and freedom. And stablecoins sit at the center of that. They are something that enables anyone to come on chain in an intuitive way, to pay their friends, to pay their small businesses, to pay online retailers. And all of that happens on Base in this new economy that we're building.
All right, let's talk about that news now. EURC is coming to Base. USDC is already there. I know we had Dante Disparte on the show recently talking about the MiCA approval for EURC, the first, I guess, licensed stablecoin in Europe now. Talk to me about this news. Why is it so important to have local currency-based stablecoins on Base? And how many do you expect to get, like, let's say in the next year?
Yeah, absolutely. So Base has already established itself as the home of USDC. When you look at the number of users who are transacting with USDC, Base is the fastest growing EVM network. And the reason why people are transacting with USDC on Base is because it's easy, fast, and cheap. Easy, fast, and cheap. That's what people want from their money. They want to be using new systems that give them better experiences. And so what we're so excited about is that EURC, which is the third largest currency in the world, is coming to Base. And that means that European economies can start to get the same benefit that United States economies are seeing right now from moving on chain. And for businesses, that's going to be faster and cheaper and easier payments. It's going to be easier cross-border settlement. So exchanges between USDC and EURC and other currencies are going to be super simple. And it means a better experience for the customers who actually want to interact with those businesses in this new internet. And so I think what we're really excited to see is that this is number two. We go from USDC to having USDC and EURC, but we're not stopping there. When we think about how people are going to come on chain, we really believe that stablecoins are going to be at the center of it, because it's going to let people go from having their old money in the old systems that are broken and slow and hard to use to using new money in a new system that feels the same. You know, I have a euro, now I have EURC, or I have a US dollar and now I have USDC, but it's powered by a new technology. And that means they're going to have the same mental models, but everything's going to be better. And that sort of seamless user transition where they get to have the same experience just 10 times better is how we bring the world on chain. And so we've done it with USDC. We're doing it with EURC right now. And over the next year, like you say, we're going to do it with a lot more currencies, because at the end of the day, we believe that everyone should have the right to bring their currency on chain, because that's going to give their local region sovereignty in the new internet. It's going to let them more easily transact with the global economy. And it's going to give every consumer, no matter where you are, no matter where you're born, no matter where you live, the benefit of this new global economy that's being built on chain.
You mentioned on-chain summer, and I know the purpose of on-chain summer is to bring mainstream business, mainstream audiences on chain. Talk to me about the adoption of stablecoins from both mainstream businesses and mainstream consumers. Like, are they getting it? What challenges still exist? Because as you explain it to me, it sounds like all fairy tales and rainbows and like it's working. But is it?
It's absolutely working. And these things always start small, but I will say that just in the last 6 to 12 months, the experience has finally gotten good enough. And this is really powered by two things. One is that the chains like Base have gotten fast and cheap. So whereas before, if you were transacting with USDC on Ethereum, it might have cost $5 to send $1 of USDC. That clearly doesn't work. Now on Base, you can send any amount of USDC for a fraction of a cent. So that's the first big change. The second big change is that wallets have gotten so much better. So for instance, Coinbase just launched a new smart wallet. Now any consumer can get set up with a smart wallet without a separate app, without a separate extension, just with a fingerprint. And that means that anyone can get started using this technology without needing a high level of technical sophistication. And so what I'm seeing on the ground, and I'm on the ground pretty much every week talking to consumers and businesses, is that for the first time, you're actually starting to see real small business adoption of stablecoins. This summer, we have coffee shops around the country adopting stablecoins. There's a whole effort where barber shops are adopting stablecoins. And we're seeing this kind of happen at the bottom of the kind of business hierarchy, the small businesses, the people who are actually most impacted by these legacy systems where high fees cut out their business and make it harder for them to operate. And they're saying, hey, yeah, maybe it's still a little bit rough around the edges, but we're willing to opt in. We're willing to work really closely with the Coinbase team and the Circle team and the Base team to make it so these experiences get really great. And I think over the next 12 months, we're going to see them kind of cross this threshold where every business, both on the ground doing brick and mortar sales and on the internet, are going to be able to use stablecoins, and they're going to choose to use stablecoins because they're going to be faster and cheaper, both for the business and for consumers.
I got to ask you recently, the crypto markets are seemingly more and more correlated with what's happening from a political perspective here in the US. How closely are you watching that? And has that come up in conversations with small business owners, just given the fact that there is not really any legislation here? There's no stablecoin bill. We have an election coming up in November. It's very unclear on the future of crypto. Has that been a challenge when getting small businesses like barbershops to adopt the technology and try it out?
I'd say for the small businesses, it's less of a challenge, right? If they have a technology that works and serves their business, they're excited to adopt it. I think the place where we really see challenge is for the people who are actually building that technology, right? In the United States right now, there's a lack of regulatory clarity. And what that means is it means that entrepreneurs on the ground, the startups, the builders who we care the most about in this country that has historically been a leader in innovation, they're spending more money on lawyers and regulatory advisory services than they are on engineers, because there isn't regulatory clarity in the United States. And that's actually pushing innovation out of this country. And so I'd say the biggest place we see impact is on that early stage startup environment. And the thing that we're pushing for, and the thing we've been really consistent about as Coinbase and as Base, is that we want to see regulatory clarity. And there's a lot of progress happening. It's happening in the courts where they're giving us more certainty. It's happening in Congress where we're actually seeing things like Fit 21 get passed by bipartisan majorities. And I think over the next 6 to 12 months in this election year, we're going to see more and more energy around making common sense policy in the United States that keeps innovation here, that stops people from going offshore and creating riskier environments and losing our best talent, and really makes America the home for on-chain innovation. Because as we build this global economy, we want America to be at the center of it.
Now, just before we wrap up, I want to come back to something you mentioned at the beginning of this interview, on-chain social. I know that you've said before this is going to be massive. Unpack this for me a little bit more. I mean, do you see on-chain social unlocking new financial opportunities for folks, and what might that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the social platforms today, 99% of the value that are made on those social platforms go back to the actual platforms and not to the creators who create the content on those platforms. And the content is where all the magic is, right? It's you and it's me and it's all the other people around the world who are bringing their creativity online to create this incredible network effect. And I think what's shifting in on-chain social is those economics and the power dynamics are shifted, where instead of having large centralized corporations that are controlling these platforms and taking all of the value, you have open source decentralized protocols that are enabling creators to benefit more. You can earn more when you create on-chain. You can connect more directly with your fans when you create on-chain, and you can have a better product experience because there's all sorts of composability and interoperability that actually happens between these products when they're built on this new technology platform. And so today we're seeing this happen like gangbusters. It's crazy. You have products like Farcaster and Zora and Rodeo and MoshiCam. There's hundreds of social products that are starting to crop up on Base and other EVM networks and Solana, of course, that are starting to really be incredible product experiences. And because they're better for creators, they're starting to actually win those creators over into this new platform. And just like we talk about how the legacy financial systems are broken for everyday people, the same thing is true for our legacy social systems. They don't actually serve the people who are creating the most value, who are bringing their creativity. And so we want to upgrade those systems. We want to build new ones on chain that serve creators, that serve consumers, and that deliver incredible experiences that make everyone's lives better.
I think it makes total sense for the artist or the creator, right? But how do you think audiences are going to transition over? Is it just going to be, they follow their favorite creators to the platform they're on, or is there a bigger challenge to overcome?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to happen because folks follow their favorite creators. I also think that a lot of it's going to happen because on this new technology platform, we're actually going to be able to build differentiated experiences that just work better for everyday people. And so that's going to lead to people opting in to these new experiences. And I think we've been a little conditioned in crypto to this kind of like flat growth with some speculative spikes. But when you look at social products, right, you look at the growth of TikTok, those things grow really quickly because someone unlocks a new behavior, a new kind of way of working for the consumer experience, and that just kind of rockets off. And I think we're just entering the phase where for the first time, people are building those consumer products on chain and folks are starting to adopt those consumer products on chain. And we're going to have a few of those that really start to hit and they're going to enter similar social growth cycles. And we're going to be pretty surprised, I think, at how quickly that starts to actually bring everyday people into this new on-chain economy.
Okay, and Jesse, just before I let you go, I am in the habit of asking for predictions, specific projects. What on-chain social platforms are you watching? Like, are there any specific ones that you think are doing something very novel and they might have that growth trajectory of some of the more traditional platforms that we've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a couple that I've worked really closely with and known forever, Farcaster and Zora. Farcaster is more Twitter-like, Zora is more Instagram-like. Those have both been making really awesome progress. Both of them have key, integral parts that are built on Base, and we're seeing a ton of adoption there. We also have more kind of early stage ones, things like Rodeo and MoshiCam, which are a lot more experimental. And I think we're starting to see real growth there as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of them start to break out as well. And so, again, there's this real collection of products that are starting to innovate, building on this new technology platform. And so much of it is happening on Base. So we're really excited about it. And we couldn't be more excited to keep supporting these folks to bring the world on chain.
Jesse, it's been such a pleasure having you on Markets Daily today. Thanks for joining the show.
Thanks so much, Jim.